Hello, welcome to another podcast episode from me, Ray's Rants. Well, I'm not Ray's Rants, I'm Ray. Sorry about the noise in the street. The gas men are going mad today. It's quite early in the morning. Well, it's 7 o'clock. They're out there. No, it's not. It's 8 o'clock. It's the wrong clock again. It's the GMT one. They're out there digging up the road. They're going mad. I don't know. Right, where's my note? Here we are. I've got some notes here somewhere. Okay, 14 centigrade, 57 Fahrenheit, 85% humidity, which isn't surprising. It's pouring with rain, 1006 millibars on the barometer, and the flag is blowing a hoolie, whatever that means, from the west. So we have a nice west wind, which is good. Trisha and I went for a little walk the other day, just round a few local roads, just to get a bit of fresh air, blow away the cobwebs. And there were a couple of old boys. The sun was shining, by the way. It stopped raining and the sun came out, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. A couple of old boys were chatting over the garden fence, over their front garden, and they're rabbiting away. And I heard one of them saying about the weather when he was a boy. Now, he was older than me. I think they were both in their early 80s or late 70s anyway. So Trish and I just sort of stopped and hovered, and they were both saying, oh, when I was a boy. And I thought that reminds me of the podcast that I do. When I was a boy, we had this sort of weather and that sort of weather. And one of them looked at me and he said, you're getting on in years. I thought, that's nice. You're getting on in years. What was the weather like when you were a child? And we got chatting. I said to him in the end, I said, I do these podcast episodes every week, talking about the good old days and the weather and everything. And his neighbour he was talking to hasn't got a computer apparently, but this other chap did, Ian, his name. He said, oh, I'll have a listen. What's your podcast called? So I told him. So we have a new listener. Hello, Ian, if you're listening. Well, I know you are listening because you emailed me to say you are. So hello, Ian. Nice to have you on board. Now, Ian was saying to his neighbour and to me, of course, about when he was a child, and he said it did rain back then. People that say, oh, when I was a boy, the summer was all sunshine and blue skies and wonderful weather, proper snow in the winter. We did have proper snow in the winter back then. But he's right about the summer. It wasn't all sunshine and blue skies and bliss. It did rain. It rained quite a lot, in fact. Anyway, nice chat, Ian. Nice meeting you and your neighbour there. I hope you enjoy the podcast episodes in the future. Quite a few of you enjoyed my rant about double glazing salesmen last week. Quite a few emails. Thank you for that, and messages. People enjoyed that. Nothing like a good old moan, is there? Now, talking of salesmen, car salesmen, they're nothing like they used to be. Second-hand car places these days are different. But in the old days, you've heard of things like Honest Harry. He sells second-hand cars. Oh, you want to go and see Honest Harry? He'll be right. He'll do you a deal. Yeah, right, I'd keep away from Honest Harry. I remember a chap, I went with a friend of mine to buy, he was buying the car. I went along with him to have a look at this car from this second-hand car dealer. Had a little showroom place. And I took a magnet along because what you used to do in the old days is run it along the door sills, you know, the bit underneath the door, and it should go clonk and stick to the car because it's metal. If it doesn't stick to the car, then that's all filler. The metal door sill has rusted away and they've bunged a load of filler in there. And of course the magnet won't stick to that. So this salesman's talking to my friend. I'm going round the car with my magnet. And the salesman looked at me and he said, oh, what are you doing? I said, just making sure the door sills are okay. And I said, they're not. That's all been filled right the way along on both sides, all been filled. I know nothing about that, this chap said. We traded the car in good faith. I didn't know that had all been filled. Of course he did. Salesmen know the trick of getting a magnet to see where the filler is. And then I moved round to the front wing. It was an old Cortina. Was it a Mark I Cortina? And the front wing, they had a problem with the suspension. The coil springs used to come up through the front wing. And I put it along the top of the wing. And that had all been filled all along the wing and resprayed, of course. Anyway, this salesman didn't like this at all. And he was moaning. He said, oh, well, it's a good price. You won't get another car like this. And my mate was saying, well, no, I hope not. Needless to say, my friend didn't buy the car. You may have heard the old joke about the car salesman. He says, oh, this belonged to one owner. It belonged to a little old lady. She only drove it to church on Sunday, once a week to church and back. And, oh, bless her, look, she's even left her Bible on the back seat. Oh, dear, well, she's a wonderful old dear, bless her. Well, that was a joke going round in the old days. I don't know whether that still goes around. So I went to buy a car. This time I was buying a car. We're just looking at a car anyway, not necessarily buying. And this salesman was saying this joke. Now, this friend of mine and myself, we thought he was joking. He said, oh, look, she's even left her Bible on the back seat. Oh, she's a lovely old dear. Only used it once a week. And of course, we're laughing because we'd heard the joke. Everyone had heard the joke. And the salesman said, well, what's funny? What are you laughing at? And I said, well, the joke, the old lady, the Bible on the back seat, I can see the Bible. It's a joke. He said, no, I'm not joking. He was being serious. I said, this is a well-known joke, second-hand car salesman. Oh, only one owner, little old lady and all this. And he went red. This chappie went all red. And he said, oh, well, I'm telling the truth. And he was stuttering. Anyway, needless to say, that was another sale that didn't go ahead. Can you hear that? We've lost so many trees round here. There's another one going. It was only about 15 feet. I don't know what sort of tree. But that's another one bites the dust. We had a huge tree over the back of our place, a massive tree that the birds and the squirrels, they all loved it. That's gone. So many trees have gone. I don't know why people cut them down. It really is such a shame. At least the gas men are being quiet today. It's Friday, by the way. Friday about 8:30 in the morning. The gas men have disappeared, which is good. They started to clear the road. But now we've got the chainsaw. No peace for the wicked. Back to cars again. Many years ago I was buying a car. I don't buy new cars. I think it's a waste of money, to be honest. By the time you've driven it out of the showroom, the second you drive it out there onto the street, it's second hand, isn't it? You've lost a few £1,000s. I did have a brand new car once and I wasn't impressed. The trouble is you get a scratch on it or a dent somewhere. Oh no, it's a brand new car. Oh no. Whereas our old car, what is it now? I don't know how old it is now. We bought it when it was 3 years old, just out of warranty. And I don't know how long we've had it, 12 years, 15. It still goes all right. It's got a few scratches and dents, mainly from hitting posts and things. Not me, I hasten to add. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's not me. Someone ripped off the back bumper recently. I say recently, no, that was a few years ago. Doesn't the time fly? We're into June now. So I was after a car. We're just thinking about changing a car. And a friend of mine, Brian, he had a full-time job, but he sort of dabbled in second-hand cars from home. He'd find a car somewhere and he'd buy it, do it up a little bit and then sell it. And I mentioned to him I might be after another car. I've got a Ford Granada Gear. He said, a lovely Ford Granada Gear. Top of the range and all this business. And I don't know how old it was. Automatic, electric windows, electric seats, electric everything, heated seats, heated mirrors, you name it, it was electric. Even the back seat was electric. So I had a look at it and I forget the price he wanted, but I said, I don't know, can you come down a bit? And he said, well, the thing is, it belongs to this lady. It was her husband's. Now, she doesn't drive. It was her husband's and he's passed away. So she wants to sell the car. Now, he's a friend of mine, so I sort of believed him. I say sort of, because I never believe anyone 100%, no matter who it is. So he said, look, I'll check with her. She wants the car to go. It was her husband's, and she doesn't want it sitting in her garage because it's always been in the garage. It reminds her of him. She just wants to get rid of it. I'll have a word with her. Now, just by pure chance, I bumped into a mate of mine, Rob, who worked at a local second-hand car garage place. And we just got talking. He said, what car have you got at the moment? And I told him. And I said, I'm thinking of going for a Ford Granada Gear. I said, it looks like a nice car. And I told him the mileage. And he said, oh, we've just traded one of those in. And I said, oh, really? Can I have a look? He said, no, we put them out to the trade. He said there are certain cars over a certain age they don't sell because they're getting on a little bit and they'd rather just put it out to the trade. It transpired, when he described this car to me, that was the very one that my mate Brian was trying to sell to me. I didn't say any more to the garage friend of mine. Next time I saw Brian, he said, look, I've seen the old lady. She doesn't want to come down in price, blah, 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 all the rubbish. And I said, oh, that's okay, don't worry. I said, what I might do is go directly to Rob and see what he's got traded in, anything worth having a look at. And he said, Rob? Who's Rob? I said, a chap at the local garage. I mentioned the garage to him. I said, where you got the Granada from? And he said, no, I don't know it. I said, look, come on, Brian. I said, come on, you're a mate of mine. All this business about an old lady, her husband's passed away, blah, blah, lies, 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 pants on fire. Liar, liar, pants on fire, isn't it? And he said, oh, all right, all right. He said, it's just a bit of banter, a bit of salesmanship. I said, it's not banter and salesmanship, I'm your mate. What he was doing, he was putting 50 quid on the price of the car. He checked it over, blah, blah, blah. I bought it from him. And I had that a good few years. It was a lovely car, I really liked it. Bit heavy on petrol, V6 engine, but what a nice car. It's not easy buying a second-hand car. Where'd you go? Many years ago I bought one from my next-door neighbour. Not when we lived here, this is decades ago. I knew the history on the car, he'd had it many years. I knew all about it, and it was a good runner, so I bought it from him. You can't go far wrong in that sort of situation, but going to a second-hand car dealer, Honest Harry, can be a bit dodgy. Any second-hand car salesman out there? Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. Any tricks of the trade you can tell me? I'll tell you one trick of the trade. Mate of mine, he bought this car. MOT came up. Lovely condition, this car, beautiful condition. Took it in for an MOT. That's the yearly Ministry of Transport test. They check this, they check that, the lights and the brakes. And it failed. And he went along to the garage and said, why has it failed? It's lovely, everything's perfect on it. There's that chainsaw again, stone the crows. And the garage chap said, I've got it up on the ramp. I thought you'd come and ask why. He said, come and have a look underneath the car. What is he doing with that chainsaw? That's a leaf blower. He's blowing leaves away now from all over the pavement. Oh dear. Oh, what a waste of petrol. I'll stop and wait till he's finished, then I'll tell you the rest of the story. Right, I'll try again. So this chap at the garage, he had the car up on the ramp and he said, come and have a look underneath. And this friend of mine looked underneath. He said, yeah, what am I looking at? The chassis looks good, everything looks good. It had been covered in that, that black tar type stuff, under seal of some sort. I forget what they called it. And he said to the garage chap, well, what's wrong with it? And the chap said, look at this. And he had a hammer. He went along the chassis, clonk, clonk, clonk. Got to about a 2 foot length of the chassis, boom, boom, boom. Past that, clonk, clonk, clonk. He said, that's a piece of wood. Someone's put in a bit of whatever it was, 2x3 timber. Bit of wood in there where the chassis had rusted away. Covered it in this black sort of tar stuff so you couldn't see it. And he said the car's a write-off unless you want a load of welding work done. What a rip-off. He went back to the chap he bought it from, which was a year previously. It had got a new MOT. He'd somehow got it through that. And the chap said, well, it's a year ago. I don't know. I didn't do it. Passed the MOT when I had it. So he got out of the problem and just left this with my mate, who actually, in the end, he looked into having it welded up, but there was so much rust under there, it just wasn't worth it. So he got some scrap value for it down the breaker's yard. Not going to go on about cars too much, but I went to buy a car once. This was from a garage. And I said to him, oh, there's no radio. And he said, oh, no, that's extra. Oh, OK. They had second-hand radios. It was a second-hand car. I didn't want one of their radios. I was in radio and TV. I could get my own radio at a good price. Then I said, oh, there's no heater. Oh, we can fit a heater. That's an optional extra. They were back in those days, the 60s, the 70s, especially the 50s. You didn't get a car radio. You didn't get a heater. They were all optional extras. You feel like saying, well, do I get the seats, or are the seats optional extra as well? But that's the way it was back then. If ever I did buy a car with a NAF, it's a good word, a NAF car radio, I'd rip that out and fit a decent one, because I was in the trade, of course. And I also fitted a heater in my Hillman Minx, my 1954 Hillman Minx. I went up the scrap yard, got a heater, stuck it in the car, couple of pipes through the bulkhead to the engine, where there were the two pipes, the taps, for where a heater could be connected if you wanted the expensive optional extra. And I fitted it, and it worked quite well. The only thing is, when I say I fitted it, it was strapped up under the passenger side parcel shelf with string. There was nowhere else to put it. It wasn't the correct one for the car, of course, so I just tied it up under there with some string. But it worked beautifully. In the winter, it was lovely and warm in there. I also replaced the interior lights, a little interior light, little festoon bulbs, with a 2 foot strip lamp, the fluorescent tube. I fitted that in the centre of the car roof, inside there, between the front and the back seats. And although it was two 30-volt mains, I had what they call a rotary converter under the bonnet. and that fired up and the strip light came on, click, 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 bing, there you go. It was ever so bright in the car. Put aerials on the roof, of course, and other radio transmitters in the car. Great fun, though. That's what it was all about. You get your first car and you basically wreck it. Well, I did. Drilled holes all over the place for aerials and things. But it was great fun. Things were great fun back then. I'm not interested in cars now. I wasn't particularly interested from day one, when I passed my test. I've never been into cars as some people are. A friend of mine was. He had everything chromium plated. You lift the bonnet, the rocker cover was chrome. The air filter metal housing was all chrome. He had everything chromed. I think he knew someone in the business and he was always taking stuff to this chap to have it chromium plated. Of course, that's illegal now. Chromium plating, isn't it? You can't do that for some reason. I don't know why. I'm still waiting to get out into the garden. It's another dull day. We've got rain this morning. We've got rain this afternoon, I believe. Tomorrow is, Saturday. Rain is forecast. We were so lucky with our Isle of Wight week away, our holiday. It was beautiful weather. It was hot, really hot, sitting in the sun. Whereas now it's just gone horrible again. I bought what I call a cat gun. Now, I know a lot of you will be cat lovers, and we've had cats in the past. We don't have a cat at the moment. But there's this one particular cat. Well, there are 2 or 3 that come into the back garden. But there's one in particular who sits by the pond waiting for the frogs to come out. He sits there for ages at night waiting for the frogs to come out, as they do at night, and then he kills them, which isn't very nice. What do I do to get rid of the cat? I bought one of these ultrasonic sound things, very high frequency sound. I thought it would be useless, but I thought, well, it's worth a try. It doesn't hurt the cat. It just makes it think, what's that awful noise? I'm going to run away. Anyway, I set this thing up, and the trail cam that I got for Christmas, do you remember I told you? Pay attention at the back there. Tricia bought me that for Christmas, the trail cam. I've got that set up, and you see the cat come into the garden. It records the video, and then you see him go onto the lawn. He triggers off this ultrasonic thing, and he does a runner. Now, he didn't come back for a couple of nights, which I thought was good. It had worked, but last night he came back again. It was caught on video. He set off the trail cam. There he was, 2:30 in the morning, heading for the back lawn. The ultrasonic sound thing went off, and he did a runner again. So it's good, it's working, it's not hurting him, it's just keeping him out of the garden, which is the plan, of course. As I say, nothing against cats at all, but I don't really want them in the garden, especially when they start pooing all over the place. That's not nice at all. So it's a good idea if you've got a problem with cats. Also, it doesn't affect squirrels. Now, I read a few reviews about it and people were saying, I wanted to get rid of the squirrels. We've got squirrels digging up this and that. And I didn't really want to get rid of the squirrels. And it doesn't. I saw this squirrel. He went up to it. He looked at it and then wandered off. Then he came back and looked at it again. Now, the thing was going because there's a little LED on it that flashes when it's sending out the high-frequency sound. So the squirrel wasn't bothered at all. He probably just thought, what's that awful noise? And then ignored it. But people were complaining online that it doesn't affect squirrels, which I didn't believe at first, but it's right, it doesn't. They're right. So if you want to get rid of squirrels, that won't work. I don't know what would work for squirrels. It doesn't affect birds either, because that was another worry. We've got a load of birds. I've put up the nesting box and we feed the birds all the time. We've got a load of birds in the garden and I didn't want them frightened away, and they ignore it as well. So that's all good. It's worked out well. Last year, I think it was, we had a sparrowhawk fly down and land on top of the fence. All the sparrows went mad and hid in a bush and they froze. This sparrowhawk, lovely bird, but I had to shoo him away. We don't want him hanging around because they kill the birds, don't they? Especially the sparrows, of course, hence their name. But they also kill the blue tits, the great tits, all the little birds. They just kill them. Nature's awful, isn't it? I was watching Spring Watch last night with Chris Packham and Michaela Strachan, is it? And it was very interesting, but this bird, she had her chicks. They were in the nest and she was feeding them, and one of them was a bit poorly. He wasn't growing. The others were growing well. He wasn't growing at all. So what did she do? She bit its head off and swallowed that. That's a snack. And the rest of it she fed to the other chicks. And I thought that was awful to watch it. They did say, if you're going to watch this, it's not very nice, not very pleasant. Isn't nature awful? Some of the things that happen in nature. It really is awful. And there's a dinosaur program. Have you seen that? What's it called? Walking with Dinosaurs or something? The animation and that these days with AI and whatever they do, is it CGI or something? It's amazing. It all looks real. There's these huge dinosaurs stomping around the forest, and there are fights going on, and one gets eaten, and there's blood everywhere. Amazing. Why were the dinosaurs so big? That's what I was wondering. How about this? Was it the T-Rex? Was it Tyrannosaurus Rex? 8 tons. He weighs 8 tons. I looked that up. What was it? I've had to look it up again. 16,000 pounds if you're in pounds. I should have done the kilos as well. If you're in stone, as we are in here, well, I am. I don't know about other people. I weigh myself in stone. I'm 10 stone and a bit. All right, 12 stone and a little bit. 1,200 stones. How about that? That is heavy. I've just checked it in kilos. 7,257 kilograms. How about that? That is incredibly heavy. This huge monster thing stomping around the forest. And of course, anything small, they just eat it. It's just like a bite-sized snack. There was this baby dinosaur, 3 years old, I think. What it was, they're digging up bones and stuff is it Arizona? No, not Arizona, wherever it was in America. Really interesting program. What I would love to do, I know I've said this over the many years I've been doing the podcast episodes, I'd love to go back to that time and wander around the forest. Well, when I say wander around the forest, obviously very wary of dinosaurs. I'd probably make a very nice, tasty, bite-sized snack for a T-Rex. Happy days. 66 million years ago that was. That's difficult to get in your head. Well, it is for me. 66 million years ago. Now, that was interesting. Why didn't the teachers at school, history, geography and things like that, why didn't they make it interesting? They'd sit up the front of the class, blah, 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 1066, this happened. 1666, Great Fire of London. Have you seen some of the programmes now, the documentaries about things like the Great Fire of London? Really good. Of course, with modern day techniques, they can recreate the scene, the fires and stuff, and the people running about, people trying to put out the fires with water. They also did one on the London smog in the early 50s. The pea soupers, all the smog, that was well done. They did one on the plague. When was the plague? I can't remember. They did one on the plague. And have you seen that? I don't know why I'm going on about TV and documentaries. Have you seen that one where they drain the oceans? So they'll go out to somewhere like the Atlantic, in the middle of the Atlantic, and they'll drain the water away and have a look. And it's all done, obviously, on computer. And it's worked out, I think, from sonar and echo sounder type things, so they know what the seabed looks like. And the computer animation just makes it all real. You see the water wash away, and there's shipwrecks and mountains, and it's just amazing to watch. Right, enough of that. We talked about car salesmen. What was it the other day? Double glazing salesman. Now dinosaurs, and now shipwrecks under the ocean. But it's so much better these days. TV, I love the old advert. I hate adverts these days. I love the old adverts back in the 50s and 60s. They were proper TV adverts. Okay, we didn't have the animation. We didn't have all the computerized stuff that makes some of these feature films these days just amazing. They're just real, aren't they? North Carolina Sun, hello, if you're listening, he sent me, was it 3 examples of AI? Was it a dog drinking from a bowl and something else, 3 videos. And he said, are these real or AI? I thought they were real. They weren't, they were AI, artificial, what is it, intelligence or something? It's absolutely amazing. I studied the videos again and again. I watched them. And to me, they're real. I don't know where it's all going to go. I find it highly fascinating, but where is it going to go? Of course, if it gets into the wrong hands, the wrong type of people, they will use it for mischievous purpose. Mischievous, there's a word. Mischievous purposes. That's not good, is it? It looks like the sun's come out. As I said, it's Friday. Looks like the sun's come out. Still a bit windy. I'm just going to do 1 or 2 jobs in the garden, make myself a cup of coffee, and I will be back to have another chat with you. Don't go away. I didn't just have coffee. I had some lunch in the garden, on the patio, don't you know? Cucumber sandwiches on the terrace. What? Wonderful. Just received a couple of photos from my sister-in-law, Trisha's sister, from Greece. She's on a Greek island somewhere. Then she's gone to another Greek island, then another one. Photos of a fantastic monastery. It just made me think the architecture, and not only in Greece, anywhere in the world, the architecture in the old days here in the UK, some of the old buildings were fantastic, weren't they? The things they did, the work they put into it all. Now, for example, I'm watching a house near to us being built, a couple of houses. Honestly, it's awful. There's no character to them. There's no, I don't know, they just look dreadful. They're boxes. It's a big box full of little boxes they call rooms. What's that box? That's the bedroom. That box there is the kitchen. It's awful. And from the outside, it's just, I don't know, it just looks horrible. You look at some of the Greek architecture and in the UK, well, everywhere in the world. Some of the old China, for example, look at that. Russia, go back a few hundred years in Russia. Fantastic buildings. France is the same. Why is it in France? Have I asked you this before? I think I have. Why is it in France? Does anyone know? A lot of the buildings you see on various programmes, various drama things, or what's that detective, or Madame Blanc, is it, or something? All the buildings are falling apart. The plaster's coming off, the paint's all peeled on the doors, and that seems to be the case on all the buildings I see on the telly in France. And when I went there, I've been to France a couple of times, only on the north coast, Calais, and where did I go? Le Havre, I don't know, a couple of places, went inland a bit. And the buildings are like that. They seem to be dilapidated. I wonder if anyone knows why. Raise rants at protonmail.com. Let me know. I've got another list of these words here, where words come from. Meat, as in steak and chips. Meat once meant all solid food, not just animal flesh. That's weird, isn't it? The word girl, originally gender neutral, well, there's a term these days. It meant a young child of either sex. How about that? What's this? Goodbye, a contraction of God be with ye. Clue, as in give us a clue, from the Greek, clue, a ball of thread. Ball of thread? That's weird, isn't it? Spinster, originally referred to a woman who spun thread for a living. Well, I didn't know that. Stone the crows. Salary, as in your monthly salary. From Latin, what's that? Salarium? Originally money paid to Roman soldiers for salt. Salt? That's strange, isn't it? So if that's true about girl being gender neutral, when I was a girl, I can say that, can't I? When I was a girl, back in the 50s, I'll have to look into that. Do I believe it? I don't know. Do you believe everything you find online or in books or wherever, or whatever people tell you? Is it true? Girl, gender neutral. Crikey. When I was at school, when I was a boy, that is, at school, we used to grow runner bean seeds in a jam jar with a bit of water and blotting paper around the outside. You put the seed between the glass jar and the blotting paper, and a runner bean plant would grow. Do you remember that? Have I told you this? I grew some runner bean seeds. 4 of them came up in this tub I've got. 2 of them have been eaten by slugs or something. So we went to a garden centre yesterday to buy some plants because I thought I haven't got time now to grow seeds. They haven't got any plants. Too late in the year. Oh, what? It's only June. Anyway, it's too late in the year. So I've had to buy seeds. And I've planted, how many seeds have I planted? Another 5. So we're going to have 7 runner bean plants, which will be good. I do like runner beans. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7 tomato plants. That's good. They're all coming on nicely. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I am. And I watched Alan, is it Tishmarsh? What's his name? The gardener chap. I watched a video of him, how to take lavender cuttings. Who likes lavender? Trisha doesn't like the smell at all. So I've taken some lavender cuttings. The reason I've done that is because I like lavender and the bees like it. We've got one big lavender bush out the back and the bees are all over it. So I've taken a load of cuttings. I've also, no, I won't go any more about, it's not gardener's question time, is it? But there's one more thing, ribes. Have you heard of ribes? It's like a blackcurrant bush without the blackcurrants. I've taken cuttings from that and they're growing really well. Just snap off a branch, stick it in a glass of water for a couple of weeks and roots come out and then plant it. It's amazing. I do like gardening. I liked gardening from when I was about 5 years old, when we moved from our small bungalow to a bigger bungalow with a huge garden. My dad, with 4 of us kids, he made 4 plots down the end of the garden, one for each of us. The others weren't that interested, but I was. I grew all sorts of stuff. I was going around taking cuttings from things. For example, you see a geranium bush, snap a bit off and stick it in my bit of garden. Most of the stuff died, because that's not the way you do it. But some things did grow, and I do remember snapping off a bit of lavender. They're banging around in the street again, sticking it in my patch of the garden, and I had a lavender bush. And I remember breaking off other things, and I had various bushes and different bits and pieces. Geraniums were easy. I think that's where I got my, I won't say love of gardening, but my interest in gardening. I do like it. Not everyone's a cup of tea, as they say, but I do like it. When people mow the lawn, they say, oh no, I've got to mow the lawn. Oh no, I've got to mow the lawn this weekend. I'm dreading it. I love it. I find mowing the lawn therapeutic. Am I mad? Probably. Happy days. We're supposed to be having thunderstorms this afternoon. It's now 3:30 Saturday afternoon. You'll be listening to this tomorrow, hopefully. No sign of rain, no sign of storms. We were meant to have flooding type rain, torrential, beating, horizontal, wind-swept, blowing, disastrous rain. And we've had a few spots just before lunch. Why? I know what I'm going to say. Why do I listen to the weather forecast? My mum-in-law came round for lunch and she said, I'm going to go early because we're meant to be having thunderstorms and heavy rain. So off she went and she phoned a little while ago. Where's this rain? She said. Where's all the rain and thunder? I don't know. I love thunderstorms, electrical storms. I know you probably think I'm a nerd. Well, you're right, I am a nerd. I've got my radio set up ready to listen to the crashes and bangs of the lightning. Well, where is the lightning? There isn't any. This happens time and time again. Not to worry. When I was a kid, I used to love the thunderstorms. I'd go down to the beach because very often the lightning was over the channel out at sea. So I'd get on my bike and cycle down to the beach, only about a mile away, and I'd sit there on the seashore. The black clouds would come across, and of course it would start raining, so I'd get soaking wet. But the storm out at sea, the lightning, fork lightning, fantastic. I used to love it. I used to sit there with a transistor radio, had that in my pocket, and I'd turn it on medium wave and listen to the all this business. I know I'm mad, but isn't it wonderful? I love nature. The power of an electrical storm. Amazing, as long as it's not too close, of course. I don't want to get struck by lightning. Was it Benjamin Franklin that sent up a balloon with a wire, and he had a key on the end, a metal key on the end of this wire, and the lightning and the static was all flashing down to this earth rod he had. Very dangerous. I mean, you're likely to get killed. I think, was it Franklin? Benjamin Franklin rings a bell. A friend of mine tried that. We were, at school, 12 years old, I suppose. He tried that. He went over the field near the woods. I went with him, but I kept back. I told him, don't do it. Anyway, it was all right. There were flashes. He had a very thin wire and this balloon that he sent up. Would it have been helium? It must have been. Oh, no, it was a kite. Sorry, it was a kite he sent up on a thin wire. And he put a metal, whatever it was, on the end. And you could see the sparks flashing over to this piece of metal, a metal rod or whatever that he had in the ground. Do not do that at home or out in the fields. It's not a good idea. I've just had an email from Emily, just this second. Hello, Emily. She says, I've got a transistor radio. I've often mentioned transistor radios. No one's got them anymore. No one has a transistor radio. We used to have one in the kitchen, one in the dining room, perhaps one to take out to the garden. The kids would each have one in their bedroom. This is back in the 60s and 70s. She says, I've still got my transistor radio from the old days. And she says, there's nothing to listen on it. It's all gone. You're right, Emily. There are no stations. There are only one or two. I think on medium wave. This is in UK. There's Talk Sport. There's Radio Caroline. If you can get that, you've got to be fairly near to Essex, where their boat is in the, where is it, in the estuary somewhere, isn't it? The Blackwater. Look that up on the map, Blackwater. I can get it here very well, but I've got obviously decent receivers and a really good aerial for that sort of thing. But you're right, Emily, there's nothing to listen to. I think I've said this before. There's Radio 5 Live, Radio Guernsey, Radio Jersey if you've got a really good aerial. What else is there? Punjab Radio, Lycra Radio, which I think is an Asian station. That's about it. They've all gone, Radio 1, all the pirates, all Radio 2, everything's gone. So anyway, so she says, I've kept my transistor radio for nothing. If it's got FM on it, Emily, you can listen to stations on FM. But perhaps you haven't, because some of the early ones didn't have that. Youngsters, of course, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they craved their own radio. That's what they wanted. I remember in the 50s, a friend of mine had a radio, not a transistor one, a valve one that you plug in, and it got warm and stuff like that. It got very hot, but it was a great sound. I remember I wanted one. This particular model he had. I've now got one all these years later. But that's what I really wanted. Then the 60s came along, late 50s, early 60s. I wanted a transistor radio, which I got in the end. That's what kids wanted back then. And a record player. Everyone had a record player in their bedroom. They had to, if you're a teenager, even old teenager. A record player. And, of course, a television in your room. A TV in your bedroom. If you had that, you were cool. Ultra cool. Of course, these days, everyone's got a telly in their bedroom. There are tellies all over the place, in the shed, in the bathroom, in the garage. These days, what do they crave? The latest iPhone. That's it. They don't want a radio. They don't want a record player. They don't want a tape recorder. They want an iPhone that costs about 1,500 quid. Stone the crows. How things have changed. I'm always saying that, aren't I? How things have changed. I used to want a really good shortwave radio, which I got in the end, but that was something I really wanted. I yearned for that. And as kids have only got their iPhone or pad thing or whatever all this stuff's called, I know what it's called, of course, I'm just mucking about. They don't understand true hi-fi, true quality, audio quality, that you only get through a pair of decent speakers and a decent amplifier, where you feel the bass in your body. You don't have to have it loud, blasting out to feel the bass. You can have the volume down reasonably low and still feel the bass in the room through your body. They listen to this tinny stuff through a tinny little speaker in their phone or tinny little earpod things. That's not proper hi-fi. That's all lost, isn't it? It's gone. I have got in our dining room a pair of huge speakers and a huge amp, and the bass. You put on a bit of music, say a church organ, something like that. Stone the crows, it rocks the house. Absolutely brilliant. Rocks the neighbours as well. But that's all lost, isn't it? It's all gone. You talk to youngsters these days about hi-fi. What? Hi-fi? What's that? In fact, my sister-in-law, she's 14, 15 years younger than me. She was saying that she remembers in the old days, a boyfriend of hers had some decent, it was his dad's decent hi-fi gear, and she used to listen to that with her boyfriend to Pink Floyd. And she said there's one track where this sound goes from the left speaker across the room to the right speaker. She said it was amazing. And she was telling me this as if there is no gear like that anymore. She hasn't got hi-fi. Her and her husband, they haven't got an amp. They haven't got speakers. They've got I mustn't say Alexa. So they listen to music on that sometimes. And they've also got a DAB radio, which is rubbish. I don't like DAB radios. There's no hi-fi. They haven't got any bass in their house. And they're not alone. Several houses I go to, family and friends, they don't have music. Go around for a barbecue or whatever they're doing, someone's birthday party. There might be some tinny DAB radio going, something like that, but there's no music, a proper music with decent speakers. And I think people are quite surprised when they come here and I'll put on whatever, Pink Floyd or something decent. And I think they're quite amazed at the bass and the sound quality, even though these speakers are very, very old, a bit like me. Anyway, there we are, I've moaned enough. What else can I moan about? Oh, did I tell you, foreign cars, was it a Sang Yang or something? Daughter number 2 had one of these. It's like a bus. You go in there in the car and you can walk up the aisle in the middle. It's a big, what do they call it? SUV? I don't know what they call it. People carrier. A big thing. Was it Sang Yong or something? Is it South Korea? Wherever. Great car. And when they came to sell it, I said, what are you asking for that? Because I loved it. It was fantastic. A big bus. I could fill it with radios and put aerials all over it. She said, you can buy it if you want, but she said, I'll tell you one thing. Spare parts for it are through the roof. Whatever you want for it costs a fortune because it has to come from, I think it was South Korea. I had a Proton many years ago, a Proton car, which is some foreign make. I don't know where it's from, probably Mars or Venus or something, the cost of the parts. I wanted a motor, a fan motor for the radiator fan. Just a little 12-volt motor, that's all it was, it burnt out. And I went to the local garage, £100 plus VAT. £100. I said, I don't want the radiator. I don't want the radiator, I just want the fan. He said, that is just the motor. You don't even get the fan with that. You've got to take the fan blades off the old motor. So I went up the car tip, the scrap place, bought one. I think it was for a Ford or a Vauxhall or something. It doesn't matter what it was. Bought one for a tenner. A couple of pop rivets, fix it on a bracket, put the wires on it. Great, off it went. This is the trouble with some of these cars. They're lovely, but when they go wrong, then you are in, I nearly said a naughty word then, you're in trouble. And as someone said to me recently, what you do these days, you buy a brand new car, 3 years warranty. When the warranty's up, you sell it, you trade it in for another, or you lease a car. I don't want to lease a car, spend hundreds a month and the car's never yours. Or I think you can buy it at the end. You've paid out hundreds of millions of pounds, and at the end of the thing, the term, whatever it is, you can buy it. You can give them more hundreds of millions, and then it is yours when it is out of warranty and everything, and the parts cost a fortune. Bring back the good old days. I think I'll go and buy a Morris Minor, a Morris 1000. There's nothing electronic to go wrong in that, apart from the radio, if one is fitted. Happy days. Right, that's it. I've bored you enough. I am going to clear off. I'm waiting for the thunder. I shall tell you on Wednesday if the storm turned up or not. Probably not. So be good, be bad. Oh, I heard on the telly the other day, what was it? Some programme, it was a drama thing. This chap said, be good, and if you're bad, don't get caught. I thought, hello, that's my line. He's nicked my line. He's been listening to my podcast. He's nicked my line. There we are. Be good, be bad. If you're bad, don't get caught. Happy days. Look after yourselves. I've loved talking to you as always. And I hope you've enjoyed my rabbiting away to you. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye for now.